as it really helps my channel. Also, don't forget the notification bell. Thanks. Hey guys, today's Monday, so that should be the weekly update, but today I am going to do my wrap-up instead. Just because, well, I can, and it kind of coincides anyway. So what have I been reading this month? Of course, I have finished Dune, you know, the first one in the Great Trilogy. And of course, what you do when you finish book one in the trilogy, you continue on to Dune Messiah, well, to the next book. So I have started already on Dune Messiah. I loved Dune. I especially like the writing style, having this omniscient third-person narrator who gets into the mind of every character, sometimes even switching between different characters in one scene, which makes for a more cinematic view, I think, because you can easily you can easily picture, you know, the people talking to each other, and then just you hear the internal monologue. It's something that intrigued me because we all know what's going on at every moment. For example, we know of what's his name again, Dr. Yue. We know he's a traitor. Spoiler alert. After about 5 or 10 pages, while in the book we only get Paul and Jessica knowing that way later. Even I think it's almost at the end they know that Yue is a traitor, and some characters don't even know it before they meet. Like Gurney, he only gets it I think final 30-40 pages when they meet again. So I think that's something that's very great about this, just us knowing more than the actual characters and being certain of it. Considering the story itself, of course, we all know it's an allegory to how capitalism robbed the Middle East of their oil, or tried to. But this time we see it from the perspective of course, the people that live in the Middle East. So it's kind of an allegory, kind of a swapped perspective. Which makes you think about how we handle stuff, us as the West in general, as a collective. I do like the way that he turned from this young well-trained guy, even I think he was 15 at the beginning of the book and then turned 19 at the end of the book, how he turns from this unassuming, although well-trained young man into this prophetic, well, the title of the second book calls him the Messiah, so how he turns into this religious figure due to tampering with religion hundreds of years back by the Bene Gesserit. It's a great journey, and you see him really come into his own, but I think I'll keep that for later, because I've actually had planned a video for Dune, book 1 versus movie 1. And I think that'll come into play a lot more, because I'll just compare the movie first with the first part of the book, and then I'll just keep on going to the rest of the book, of which the movie will come out, I think, in 2024, I'm not sure. What have I read? Also, of course, Brave New World. You have seen the video, I'll just link it in the description for those who haven't. That was actually my read of the month. I loved it. It was something that very, very much spoke to me, just because of how well predicted it was. Considering it's a 90-year-old book that has predicted some of today's society's biggest weaknesses in a very, very scary way, even. So yeah, it was a very short read, but it was a great and intriguing read. Well, except for the ending, I think it was too abrupt, a bit gruesome as well, and a bit lackluster. But the rest of the book, just up until those final 10 pages, was amazing. What have I read? 2. This one is, of course, Magician Apprentice. I have made that video as well. That was a very good read, even though it was a bit derivative. I think for now, I am reading Daughter of the Empire. So I think after I've read Daughter of the Empire, I will return to Magician Master. Because I actually want to finish it, and I like Pug as a character. I like Pug as an underdog character, and at the same time, his best friend / adopted brother Thomas is for now this overpowered magical fighter with magic armor and this legendary warrior. So I want to see how these two turn out, because apparently Magician Master implies that Pug will be a master magician and that he will have some skills or even a different magic system that's not known to the people in his own world, in Midkemia, because he's been raised for 4 or 5, 6, I don't know, for some years, for multiple years in Kelowon, because he has been captured at the end of Magician Apprentice, well, a bit before the end, but you catch my drift. Finally, the last book I've read this month, it's not that much, I know, it's only 4 books, it was Red Rising. And I liked it. I'm not going to say I loved it, but it's great. I have to say I went in almost blind. The only thing I knew about this was that, the society was divided into castes, and they all had their color, while red being the lowest. And of course, with the title Red Rising, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there will be some kind of a revolution or rebellion going. That being said, I did not expect this to go the way it went, neither story-wise or scale-wise. I expected this to be, considering there's already... Oh, I just kicked my cat. Considering there's a trilogy, I expected more of a slow build-up in the first book. Having this, I didn't know the titles of the other books, by the way. I expect this to be a more slow build-up, having our character meet his friends or his co-conspirators, and we get to meet, of course, the big bad. However, we got all that just in part 1 of the book. And there's 3, 4 parts, I think 5 parts, yeah. And instead of this small rebellion or blooming revolution, this turns into this covert infiltration mission with multiple pieces of the puzzle strewn around the world or around the battlefield by the instigators of said rebellion. And it presented the class warfare in the beginning, but then it went on to be something very different, even though in hindsight it might have been a bit obvious. Just because I'm not going to spoil the ending, but this goes in a very different direction. It has kept me guessing while reading it, just because I expected something and then it turned out to be something else. So I did not trust my own knowledge of previous books I read. So I just kept guessing and just kept reading without actually thinking much about the story. So I was surprised by some things. I guessed other things way in advance. I guessed the ending at the beginning / middle of part 2. So that's not great, but on the other hand, the way to that ending was something very different of what I had in mind. Also, this book is marketed as YA, it's not. There's a lot more action, a lot more gore even. It's more detailed. There's not as much teenage drama either, which is, kind of something that defines YA even. But considering there is a cast of 16 to 19-year-olds, give or take, there is of course some drama, but it's not the main focus of it, which is something that happens a lot more in YA. And it was a good read. in that fact that I have already downloaded the second book on my Kindle called Golden Sun. So this will probably be somewhere next month. I don't know if it'll be April because I have to read Messiah and Daughter of the Empire and Servant of the Empire this month. So I'll try to squeeze those in first, and then after that I'll do the rest of the Riftwar trilogy, the rest of the Empire trilogy, and the rest of Dune. But I'll go along quickly, I think, because I have a lot more books planned. And you'll see that in my Thursday video, because I'm planning on doing the Reddit book challenge. The bingo challenge is the exact word, the fantasy and sci-fi bingo challenge even. I have a lot of books already planned. There's a lot of books out already on my shelf, but we'll see about that. Now, back to Red Rising. The character work is good, not great. Some are very lovable, especially Servo. I love Servo. Others, well, go into this hate to redemption arc, even in a small book. One of them even makes a full-blown villain in the beginning to savior at the end transformation. Darrow itself, our main character, he's a Garrus too. He's awesome at everything. Everything he does works. He gets saved sometimes by Deus Ex Machina as well, which is something I didn't like. But on the other hand, he does have some redeeming qualities. The biggest of it being his love for his wife, which is de facto the Kickstarter for his slight development. He lives and he learns during the entire experience at the Institute. But I think the best way to describe him is improvise, adapt, overcome is his motto. But at the end, even his hate for the gold caste is being nuanced because he actually evolves his personality in the sense that he sees a lot more nuanced than he does in the beginning. Everything's black and white, or red and gold in the beginning. But throughout the novel, he becomes more and more and more convinced of the fact that there are good people in all castes and there are bad people in all castes. So it was not great, Red Rising, but it was good enough to keep me continue reading, because I've heard of other people that the second and third book are actually a lot better than the first book. So this has got me all in for now. I'll keep you posted on whatever's next. And I think that was it for my monthly wrap-up, guys. I'll see you guys somewhere this week for my book haul, which is not that big, and of course my bingo Reddit challenge. See you next time, guys. Mission accomplished.